I am Alpha. I am Omega. Every beginning has an end.
What is up? This is Pete, and in this video I'm going to be going through every season of a mini BR that I created. This started actually 2 years ago, this project, almost 2 years ago now, which is insane. If you want to see all the trailers for each of these mini BRs, which are actually pretty cool, I'll link it there on the top right for you to check out. I'll also include a map code at the top of each of these as we go through it. As you can see with this mini BR, the idea really for the first version of my mini BR, there was no story. I kind of just wanted to create a mini version of the chapter 1 map. So I have this reminiscent tilted towers, and we have the lighthouse, which actually didn't come until later, but still. We have high top houses, which is very chapter 1 vibes, you know. And we have the Pablo gallery over here, which really reminded me of Westworld back in the day. You have all these amazing POIs and locations, and I just wanted to squish a map together. Even include Magic Mountain, which was that POI in chapter 1 that didn't really have a name, it was just named that. But as you could see, I was using the old chest system here and just ammo crates. But you'll also laugh at all my mechanics. I had vending machines and some item spawners, but the only mechanic, guys, that I had in this map was an advanced storm controller set to automatic default. Basically, it gives you a BR storm. So I thought that was pretty funny. There's literally no mechanics in season 1 of my map. So now we're in season 2 of this map. A lot, you know, kind of changed in season 2. This was a big update. And this is where I kind of start to introduce story for the first time with this orb arriving. So in season 2, this orb arrives and starts to create havoc on the map, and you can see like the waters turn this kind of galactic color. You have these tentacles coming out and they're destroying the map slowly, and then over here you have this like thing getting built, which people didn't know at the time what it was. It ended up being the first ever mini block in a mini BR. So it was the first time I had seen, anyway, a mini block in a BR where people could put their own creations on this block and you can play them, which was really cool. The other major addition here was this area over here, which was Pilot's Peak. I built this entire huge thing over Sweaty Swamp, but for the first time ever, I had introduced a custom storm system that was also a huge one under the map here. And because people were breaking under the map, I created these barrier systems back then. This was the best way to do it because the barrier was just a horrible device to use back then, the barrier plate device. I think it's worth noting before we go to season 3 that I started to get really obsessed with creating live events for my mini BRs. And for this Battle Royale, I did a season 2 end event, which was, when I say end event, I mean like live event. It's just like the end of the season event. But it was really cool, and this one you were kind of locked in the basement, and it was because I didn't want you to see all the mechanics going on. This was a crazy event where these guys right here shoot down, blow up these buildings. These tentacles over here start to shoot this like laser grid thing, which then blows up and becomes the mini block, which was pretty cool. And then this is the first time I created a end event using timers. I did not use triggers back then. Only recently have I started using triggers. You can see how complicated I started to get with the triggering system, with the message system. We had the orb starting to talk. All right, so now we're in season 3 of the map. The biggest change was this center point here, just kind of grew a little more out of control. I think the biggest one is there wasn't many because I had to save room for the block, the mini block. There's nothing built here, but basically a lot of extra memory was saved for the mini block. And this was back when memory still cost a ton. Like right now it says 85,000 memory. What are we at? We are only at 86,000 as the top, but back then it was like 95,000. So there's once again no room. But I added this little back area here. This season was not a huge change, and the biggest reason was just trying to fit in mini block. Now let me show you some things I started to do. I actually replaced all the grass there was all these grassy pieces, and I put in these flat grid pieces instead. And at this point, what I was doing, I spent an entire season optimizing memory. I got rid of all the pieces that were like this really beautiful grass, and I did flat terrain instead, and I widened it out as much as I could. This was the only area that remained with the old grass. The whole map used to look like this grass. And then I slowly started to strip it out each season. All right, so now we're in Season 3, the end event, which starts up in the sky here, and it's actually pretty cool. I'll just play the first second here so you guys can see it. And what was cool about this one is you had this like beautiful like thing going where you run towards the orb. But yeah, I do a lot of events, so make sure to check out the walkthroughs on those as well. I just wanted to show you a second of this because I think it's important for you guys to just get an idea of how these events are made, how I've grown. But just to show you the map real quick, this was the end event for Season 3. There's a lot of explosions. This is where our cape made this awesome mech, that gnome mech that fires at the orb. So now we're at Season 4, and Season 4 was a very crazy season. This was one of the biggest seasons. You could see now a lot of changes happened here. The orb is reaching its peak, its final form here, as it's about to just take over and destroy this entire island. You can see here that Pablo Village became a western town for only a season. You had the jail over here. It was pretty cool. You have some gnomes in jail, but basically that was the evolution of this area back here. That was a huge change. Then over here, I had brought in Sweaty Swamp again, but like a new kind of artistic version of it. So this was like the new swamp, and it was pretty dope. I like the way it turned out over here. So before we move on to Season 5, I wanted to show you this really cool Season 4 end event. This is probably one of the best end events I ever built. This is where the orb literally grows out of control and destroys the entire map with its tentacles. You actually see the beams of light coming out of all the tentacles. They blow up the map as we know it, and it's just a really epic event. You come down here, land on these platforms with your guns, you fire at the orb, you finally destroy the orb, which destroys you with it, and you go into this new universe, or kind of multiverse, where you end up in kind of the same world but different. So here we are in Season 5, and this was actually probably the biggest story trailer I ever had performance-wise. Like, it was a huge map change. What was cool about this Season 5 map is I also included the end event, which you can still activate by pushing this button when you go to the map code. But you're going to notice what a big change, right? I went to the big thermometer islands at that point in time, and I basically rebuilt the entire map from scratch. I added some new locations, like this awesome one called Perilous Peak. You go inside, and there's a whole storyline now. You had using the new Princess Gallery, trying to just really push myself out of the box. Another location here called Rainbow Rubik's, which was another huge fan favorite that I created that showed up. But there was also classics in the map, like a remake of Trapper Towers, which pushed away from the classic tilted and went with more of a neo-tilted vibe. I was finally on these bigger thermometer islands able to make high top houses bigger, have a little more uniqueness with the houses, add a couple more variations than just that blue. So I was really proud of that with Season 5. This was a huge update. Vicious Valley was no longer that Pablo or Western gallery. And then the biggest addition, I created Omega Pyramid that you might have remembered from Chapter 1, Season 7, and Chapter 1, Season 9 on the block. This was in fact on the block, this exact pyramid. I put it in my BR as a homage to being on the block, and if you remember those days, you're an OG player, you'll definitely remember this POI. So now here we are in Season 6, which is a Halloween theme. And so this was the first kind of real major Halloween themed map that I did. It just had this really dark feel to it in certain areas. So when you come in here, I was the first time using Sky Dome volumes. And it was the first time that when you came to the Omega Pyramid, you got this weird feel to it. And in this one, the orb, this evil alien essence, is about 5 times larger than in the other map. All of this is happening because the corrupt Gnome King was possessed by the orb, which he then kind of conforms and transforms this castle into his evil lair. And so this castle gets much bigger, kind of goes deeper, and in this ugly area here, there's a lot of stuff going on in here because there's an event. But you can see here, it's just like this very dark thing with an evil Gnome King. All right, so now here we are in Season 7. In this one, Magic Mountain became Monumental Mountain. So in here, we built this huge base. So the gnomes are kind of coming together now. They built this base, and they want to fight back the orb, which has kind of reclaimed the turf over here. And the other big update is the Omega Pyramid turned purple. Also, this was the winter season, so every single tree on the map was turned into a snow wintry tree. This is a huge undertaking, and this is the result of that transformation. This was also a huge update. In the last couple maps, I didn't show anything because there really wasn't any mechanical changes. But in this one, I introduced a battle pass. I want to show you how I built this battle pass, which is under the map here. So under here, you'll see this is the battle pass system. It used a class designer, class selector, and this indicated a visual that you were getting that battle pass power up. That's basically all it was. I also had some accolades in there for XP, and I had some cool side quests as well. Every 3 props destroyed gave you 5 gold, and distance traveled gave you gold as well. Over here, I had a custom loot pool. So this is the custom loot pool video. I'll link a video up above if you want to learn how to make your own custom loot pool. But this map has its very own custom loot pool. In order to have gold save in a mini BR, I had to put item removers in, and that's more complicated. But I did a whole mechanic about how to save gold in a mini BR, and that is also linked there at the top right if you want to learn how to do that. At this point in Season 7, I realized I needed to make my events bigger. They were getting a little small again, and because I was trying to contain the event in the map, instead I started to create different codes. This is when the prop mover came out. This gun shoots at the orb over here. The gun blows up and flies down this way and blows up this house right here, creating havoc. The orb here shoots these things and starts blowing up the map. I mean, this is chaotic. People saw basically fire and brimstone on the map. The entire map basically starts on fire, and this is just the beginning of the end. People didn't realize it was the end of the map, but you can see how big this end event was. There's actually a limit on how many of the new timers you can use. I think it's 50. So I had to use all these new timers. Then when I ran out, I had to go to the old timers. So now you're seeing the final progression, the Season 8. Season 8 is where the orb finally kind of takes over the map. Everything has this purple vibe to it. The orb is taken over the Omega Pyramid, which it's basically the story is this is the orb's home ship, and the orb has come back. This was a hard season to do. I had to destroy every POI because the map blew up last season. So you'll see here, there's explosions. I even brought back the mini block in Season 8. That was huge. It was a bigger space for players to put in their maps, and every week it would feature a new map. We had a lot of changes in here. You could skydive through these right here, these tunnels. There's fire volumes everywhere that actually burn all this when you start the game. But I had to destroy and give everything a destroyed look, and that took forever. Let me show you the mechanics going on under the map here. We have a more advanced battle pass system with now a exotic tier. There is a lot of new things going on in here. A lot of big changes where now with the player counters, what I can do is I could say, hey, if only one person shows up in my map, make it an open world. If 2 to 4 people show up in my map, change it into zone wars. And if it's 4 or more people, change it into a battle royale. So now you have open world, you have zone wars, and you have battle royale. I even had a down but not out device, so when you did get knocked the first time, you didn't die. You got a second chance at life. And you would actually spawn under the Omega Pyramid, where you got this thematic where this is where when you died, you'd show up right here crawling, and the orb would say, "You weakling, you're mine now. I'm going to bring you back to life as mine one last time to take everyone down." Then you spawn above the Omega Pyramid, come back down as this red glowing orb minion to take on everybody with more superpowers the second round. I did time of day changes, so it cycled through time of day. We had save device, it saved your progress, a more advanced custom loot pool system. Random number generator was entered for the zone wars, so it would drop you at a different POI every single round. Last but not least is the Season 8 end event, which clearly I created right before the memory limits went back up. When I made this, it was like 9999999. It was right at the top, and then they were like, "We fixed memory issues," and I didn't even know there was like big memory bugs. But I could never update this end event again. But I wanted you to see how crazy it actually is. This is we start basically in the center of the pyramid here, and you could see how much things have changed, how crazy things have gotten. And really, you should just play this event. I put so much work into this. I can't even begin to tell you how many months of my life went into this to end the event on a high note. But just seeing what's going on under the map here, all the events, all the triggering systems for each event. And this is just one area. I built this in multiple areas. You go down into the mines with your torch. This wall opens up, you get meted by the gnomes. You go into here, this gate opens with the prop movers. You have to go through this quest where you answer the questions. You come in here and fight the evil Gnome King one last time. You can see all the mechanics and how complicated and crazy this is. But literally, guys, you just saw, if you watch this whole video, from Season 1 to Season 8, like, this is insanity, how far I came with my maps. And I want this to be inspiration for you guys too. Came up here, you go through this whole channeling system where the orb's talking to you while you're stuck in this glass box that's moving on a bunch of prop movers, so it moves you with it as the orb talks to you. Then what I did is I rebuilt chapter 1 in the back corner here. Like 80% of the chapter 1 map that you remember is rebuilt in here. So here it is, where you start in the chapter 1 Trapper Towers, come out, fight the orb again like you did in Season 2, kind of like a rematch with some better special effects. Then once you beat them there, that's like the second phase of fighting the orb. You come up here for the final fight, which thank you so much Arcape for making these mechs. But this was insanity. And what an epic end event this was. Now, this is an evolving work in progress. I kind of threw it together last minute with the help of Brandy Builds. And basically, you can just get a sample of each season here. And each of these load in the portals for you to take a look at. You can play each of these maps, each season with its end event. And you get a theme and a feel for each of these maps. And it's pretty epic. So guys, I'll leave the map code for this one as well. That pretty much wraps up the DirectingPete's Battle Royale history. I just wanted you guys to see how the progression of my maps went from Season 1 to Season 8.